Okay, so this video is about everybody's favorite topic, comparative and absolute advantage, or what you might hear referred to as terms of trade. I'm going to use a couple of examples that are in the slideshow that is in the Google Drive for Unit 6 on Economic Growth and International Economics. So I'm going to use this example of Maggie and Carl with fishing and hunting. This is also an example I like to use in class, but I think it's a nice example for a video tutorial. So I've copied the information down here so we can look at it a little bit more clearly. Basically, what comparative and absolute advantage tells us is that despite the fact that you might have two individuals who can do the same skill, so you have Maggie and Carl that can fish and hunt, what would yield the most units of food for this entire economy is if we had Maggie specialize in one of these tasks and if Carl specialized. And the theory is that if we specialize, we funnel our energy and resources into that one task, and therefore we will result in greater productivity and a greater total amount of goods and services. So one thing you should take comfort in is that the absolute advantage is kind of pretty easy. And that absolute advantage is basically who does which skill better. So if I look at these stats at the end of the day, Maggie gets us total units of fish and 3 units from hunting. Carl gets us 10 units from fishing and 5 units from hunting. So Maggie has an absolute advantage in fishing because she's just a better fisher than Carl is. And Carl has an absolute advantage in hunting because he's just better at the hunting. You might be asking, well, could somebody have an absolute advantage in both skills? Absolutely. So if Maggie, for instance, was taking home 6 units from hunting, we would then say that she's better at both skills. So it is possible. In this particular example, I chose not to do that, but it is possible. So absolute advantage just means for whatever reason, that person or that country is just better at that skill. And sometimes it's just luck, like Barrington is better at the fishing industry because we're on the water. So, if you want to have a competition between fishing industries in Oklahoma and in Rhode Island, the Rhode Island one's going to win every time. Okay? Also take comfort in that you're going to always pretty much get numbers that are pretty easy to work with because, again, we're not using calculators. So I've created numbers here that we can reduce and work with pretty easily. Some of you can look at these numbers and see the ratios fly off the page, and some of you might have more of a difficulty doing that. What I like to do is I like to either take the fishing or the hunting and level off the playing field, because right now, the fishing numbers, the hunting numbers, it's hard to compare these because there's nothing really in common here. So I'm going to look at the hunting. And what I notice is that a ratio of 12 units, for every 12 units of fish that Maggie brings in, she's bringing in 3 units from hunting. And that's actually the same as saying for every 4 units of fish, she's bringing in 1 unit of food from hunting. And I notice that I can also do that to Carl's numbers. And I can say that for every 10 units of fish, that's really like doing 2 units to every 1. And now I have the hunting on a level playing field, and I can compare Maggie with Carl that much more easily than I can if I'm thinking of 3s and 5s. So for every 1 unit of food that Maggie gets from hunting, if she focused only on hunting, we would be giving up 4 units of fish. If Carl, on the other hand, focused on hunting, we would be giving up 2 units of fish. Where is the opportunity cost greater? It's greater if Maggie focuses on the hunting, because we're going to lose 4 units of fish. If Carl focuses on hunting, we only lose 2, and we get to have Maggie's 4 units of fish. So in this instance, if I was to say who has the comparative advantage in fishing, it's going to be Maggie. Because if Maggie gives up the fishing, there's more to lose, or the opportunity cost is greater. The opportunity cost would be 4 units of fish. Whereas if Carl focuses on hunting, the opportunity cost would be lower. It would only be 2 units of fish. So it's smarter for us, if we're going to have these two individuals divide and conquer, it's smarter for us to give Carl the hunting and to give Maggie the fishing, because the opportunity cost would be greater if, number one, if they both did both tasks, it would be greater there. But also, number two, we wouldn't yield as much food. There's also another trick you can do to double check your answer. And if you watch Mr. Clifford's video, he will show you this trick. And the trick is to cross multiply the numbers and to work up towards the corners. So if I take the original purple numbers on here, 10 times 3 is 30. 5 times 12 is 60. So what I'm noticing here is that 60 is a larger number, and it's traveling in the diagonal across those boxes this way. So that tells me that this is where one person should give their attention, and this is the other person's comparative advantage. I like that cross multiply method, but I also feel like it's really important for us to understand the ratios and the opportunity costs. So I think the cross multiply method is a great method for you to double check your work, but I wouldn't make it your only method. If you want more practice on these, I have a few more examples that you can give a try. This, by the way, before I close out this video, is known as output. And it's known as output because it's the total units that these individuals are bringing in. There's another method called input, and input has to do with the rate at which we produce things. So input has to do with how many days or how many hours or how much time it takes to make something. So I'm going to show you that in a different video about two countries and how many hours it takes for them to harvest coffee. So check out another video for that one, and I hope that comparative advantage seems a little bit better for you now.